Hello and welcome, Star Wars fans, to this week's episode of Duel of the Ranks, a show where we debate takes so hot that they'd melt a planet with twin suns. My name's Brody, and I'll be hosting this episode with my co-hosts Amanda and Christian, as we attempt to discover what story is truly the best from a galaxy far, far away. On this week's episode, we're going to be discussing ranks and hot takes from Star Wars Episode 1, The Phantom Menace. By the end of this episode, we'll have a definitive answer on where this piece of Star Wars content ranks amongst the rest. Now, with that said, let's get this show started. What a divisive movie. I personally love it. I think it's a fantastic Star Wars film. I mean, no, it's not a great film overall, but it's a whole lot of fun. Amanda, wouldn't you agree?
It's a film. It's a film. It's a movie.
It's a movie. A good movie, right?
It exists in the Star Wars universe.
Days are coming.
No, this one is definitely not my most favorite Star Wars film, if I'm being honest.
Well, for all of the listeners who haven't seen Star Wars Episode 1, Amanda, give us like a quick rundown. What's this movie all about?
So, The Phantom Menace, we meet a young Anakin Skywalker who is destined to bring balance to the Force. Now, he meets Master Jedi Qui-Gon Jinn and his Padawan Obi-Wan Kenobi, who teach him about the Force. And together they work with Queen Amidala to bring the Trade Federation back to Queen Amidala's home planet of Naboo.
And what's wrong with everything you just said there? Why wouldn't you like that movie? That sounds so interesting.
You're right. Why do I have so much hostility towards it? Okay, so
Well, hold on. Should we preface your number to this movie?
Oh, yeah. What's your overall rank from 0 to 100%?
All score, was a 44%.
Wow.
Yeah, I know it's intense.
He's a bombad.
Basically, it starts off on the totally wrong foot for me. This movie, okay, I was first introduced to it when I was a child, like kindergarten, first grade, right? And it was chosen as the movie to watch at before school rec. And it was my first time ever seeing it. And I was like, why are these kids watching this movie about politics and trade? And why? It's also, there's no cartoons in it. It's like, there's nothing in here that makes sense to me. And I know we've talked about A New Hope already, and I've complained about how slow that movie is. This movie takes the cake. This is the slowest and most painful Star Wars film to get through for me.
It includes the fastest chase scene, the fastest race.
Pod racing, yeah. Pod racing is fine, but then once pod racing happens, it feels like it goes on too long.
What?
Oh,
it felt like it was just kind of like going, and I don't know. I just wanted.
It goes on too long?
Yeah.
I still couldn't get enough of that. Everything about it. Like,
it's Skywalker.
Ooh, ah, ooh, ah, ooh, ah.
Picture Brody and I. We're the two heads. Amanda somehow got in the middle, and she's like, "Shut up."
Yeah, that's kind of what we're at right now.
It was an amazing. Okay, look, it's not the best Star Wars film of all time.
It doesn't make sense to me that it's even a kids movie. Like, it just doesn't have the entertainment factor to like entertain like children, in my opinion.
That's interesting.
I loved
as
that
a
movie
child.
as a kid.
I was thoroughly entertained.
Really,
but I also
What does that
remember
say
not
about
knowing
me?
what half of it was about.
Exactly.
I was like, I don't know what
They're
this
talking.
Trade Federation
There's
deal
too much
is.
talking.
It is funny, like watching it as an adult and like paying attention to the politics of it all. It's like, oh, this whole thing started off on a taxation dispute.
Yeah, with a
trade federation, and it's. I'll admit, it is a huge style change for Star Wars. Like if you picture like reviving Star Wars with this film. Like
the first one has to be a political drama.
Yeah, political drama. Like, let's get to the politics. Let's
throw a little race in there.
Let's do it, and let's get Jar Jar in there for the kids.
Well, it's interesting. Like if you look at the rise of someone like an Adolf Hitler. It's a really similar scene where it's just like you see Sheev Palpatine, and yes, there is this empire one day, but it started out with little political disputes and him earning the favor of the people. And, you know, it presents this one evil who's greater than everyone else. And for Hitler, that was, oh, look at the rest of Europe and all these people that are against us. And yes, you have the separatist alliance, what all of this turns into. And yeah, so obviously he's manufacturing a war. And this is the origin story. This is the beginning of that. And you see how, like, articulate his plans were even at that point. I mean,
yeah, and
playing Queen Amidala.
Okay,
like,
but also, yeah, let's talk about the characters, because I don't find it believable that I'm watching now, as we've discussed, a political drama starring a 7-year-old and like a 12-year-old.
okay,
with Liam Neeson as their babysitter.
okay.
Why? Who? George Lucas, what were you thinking when you were like, you
George?
know where we need to start this story is right here, you know? And
it was interesting the time that he chose
yeah.
to like, all right, these are where the prequels need to go. Right here.
Yeah.
Right here. The taxation dispute.
This
We're
is what's
gonna-
going to wrap people into caring about Star Wars.
Like, as a kid, I was enthralled with that CGI at the time and the pod racing
It still
and
looks
Darth
good.
Maul. And yeah, and like it was cool to like see this Qui-Gon Jinn speaking with authority. When you
Yeah.
kind of watch it, you know, as an adult now, it's like he's just bossing people around. Like
Yeah.
people are listening to him, but like he's telling the queen, well, he's like, the queen trusts my judgment.
Yeah.
You should too. Like, they're just like all these other things that like they're just listening to him as they go along. But it's big. We talked about side quests too in Star Wars before. Like, this is a big side quest because like the whole thing is the queen is trying to get to Coruscant and bid her case for her planet, but we don't even get to Coruscant until like 3/4, 2/3 of the
because it takes
movie.
forever.
Because we gotta see this kid in a pod race and Watto and all these things. Like there's a big nostalgia piece to me for this. That's why I love this film, and it's part of that heralded canon. But yeah, I mean, as an adult, I could see where people had their hesitations of like, what the heck are we watching that is stamped with the Star Wars logo?
And you know, we like the age difference between Amidala and Anakin is weird, and it just continues to get weirder.
But at that movie, you're not thinking about it because
I was like, she looks a lot older than him.
Yeah.
Why are you comparing the two when you're watching that film? Like when that film came out and you hadn't seen Attack of the Clones or Revenge of the Sith, why would you even be comparing their ages? Because you're not thinking about them
But they were
romantically.
flirting.
They were flirting
They
a
were
little
definitely. Are you an angel?
bit. You an
You're so pretty.
I don't see that as flirting. I saw it as like, here's a little boy, he's like showing his affection to this
Isn't that what
older
flirting
woman.
is?
No, older
Christian,
woman.
wait.
And she no, like this is where
Pull
it's
up
like
the definition of
like
flirting.
the age thing. It's like she does seem like much older,
Yeah.
or like she's just like, oh, entertaining, like I'm your babysitter or whatnot. Like
Right,
I never
right.
saw it as
Well, that's what I
flirting.
like. It should have been more like that, but then it sort of bleeds into what Star Wars is, and yeah, because like when you look at Leia and Luke, how Leia is just so much more mature than Luke is on a fundamental level. It's kind of like her parents too.
How much older is Padme really than Anakin, though?
I think we've talked technically 5 years.
That's a lot for a child.
Yeah. Well, I don't know. I mean, nothing crazy, I guess, to Christian's point. Nothing crazy happened
Okay,
in this
but I
film
did want to
besides
say in the as far as characters go, like Qui-Gon and Obi-Wan are definitely carrying this film, but
that. Absolutely.
Obi-Wan, and then I guess Maul, you could say, is the other character that makes this film worth watching. But 2 of those 3 characters don't ever return again. Like, we only get them for such a small amount of time, and it's a disservice to the Star Wars community that you don't get more.
I would say it was a disservice. We didn't get more of them. I would say though Palpatine was another very interesting, like I thought
Agreed.
fleshed out character, even just from this movie. Like at that time, you're kind of like, man, this guy has gotten a lot of screen time. Like he's playing these people.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I thought, especially like there are all the elements of like a grander picture of Star Wars where it's like, oh, we're actually getting a bigger, like we're getting battle scenes, we're getting more practical, like more CGI effects, more lightsabers, and it really kind of, I don't know, it's interesting to like go back in time and think about how this movie was doing when it came out, and then like seeing how it aged. You know, I was talking about it now. What were you gonna say?
No, I piggybacking off of that point. I know people who, did see that movie in theaters who were, 11, 12, 13, whatever, loved it. It wasn't until they got onto the internet, saw everyone else's reviews as time went on. People like, yeah, I guess it was terrible. But no, I mean, for me, I've got this movie at an 80%.
That's absurd.
I just think Jar Jar is so clutch. No, while he's an annoying character, he clearly has a point to why he's there. I know George's whole philosophy was kind of like with Ewoks, give some comedic relief, whatever. But
of all the reasons I hate this movie, Jar Jar is nowhere near it.
Really?
Yeah. Which is interesting because I think at the time he was, but like you, I rated this movie 79.2%. It's just
the story for me. It's a far more sound than Attack of the Clones. I mean, I know, Christian. I know. I love Attack of the Clones too, but it's a very sound story. Really bought into the characters.
A child is like flying a freaking...
His midichlorian counts will off the charts.
Okay, yeah. Okay, we talk about midichlorians, but then it's never brought up again. It has no relevance whatsoever.
That's just the backlash from the fans. We can bring it back.
It's definitely there in a lot of the books. But I will say, like, that kind of gets into the immersive universe side of things as well, though. Like, Qui-Gon was kind of like that vessel for teaching more of the Force.
Yeah.
And we are learning more with Phantom Menace. And we're getting a huge insight into the Jedi Council.
Oh, yeah.
The whole, like, just how they operate. And it is funny, though, like, again, watching it as an adult, kind of seeing how, like, Mace Windu and Yoda kind of have their own little side discussions after each meeting, you know? And, like, there's a battle of, like, Qui-Gon being that idealistic person and Obi-Wan kind of holding fast to the dogmas of the Jedi, and like he's more legalistic about the Jedi religion. And like I think that really played very well off each other, that we really hadn't gotten that before.
And think about like if Obi-Wan hadn't have trained Anakin, but Qui-Gon did, who was far more loose with the rules, would Anakin have turned?
That's the duel of the fates.
Would Ahsoka have had another person vouching for her? And Anakin, it would have been a lot more interesting, put it that way. So, excited to go back, watch this movie, knowing the impact of Qui-Gon Jinn. Excited to see more of him in upcoming projects, like we saw him in Rebels, and I know people talk about him potentially in Obi-Wan, and so his character has a huge impact, and it starts here. It's not perfect, obviously. I don't know,
you ranked it pretty dang near perfect.
80%. There's a 20, there's 20 whole percent of there. There's a 1/5 of it isn't perfect for me, but
I will say though, like a part of the maybe ridiculousness isn't the right word for the movie, but like even Obi-Wan has a savage quote that I had to like type it in when I was watching it. He says to Qui-Gon, like after he's bringing Anakin back up, he's like, "Why do I sense we've picked up another pathetic life form?" And like it's like, oh dang, savage Obi.
I know, savage Obi-Wan, man. No, it's 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 interesting. It's interesting for me to look at people like Obi-Wan, who's again a little bit more cynical, whatever, and you do see again very by the book person who ends up mentoring Anakin. So you really see Lucas's like vision for that. Like Anakin's gonna be off the wall, crazy, and it's gonna help balance out Obi-Wan, who's so by the book about everything. And it starts here, and you saw that he had a vision for everything before he even really got started. So that was cool. But some of the things I don't really like, while I don't mind Jar Jar's as a character, I don't really love the amount of screen time he gets. I don't love the puppet Yoda in this. I know it was replaced later on with CGI Yoda. Looks better, but the original adaptation.
Hot take. Phantom Puppet Yoda is better than Last Jedi Puppet Yoda. We can... You go ahead. You keep going. I just wanted to throw it in there before I forgot.
That I don't like either. So
You got it. You must choose.
Last Jedi Yoda was there for just so little.
And the problem with Last Jedi Yoda I have, there is a group called the Bad Lip Reading People.
Yeah.
And if you haven't seen the My Stick song, it just, it's ruined the Last Jedi Yoda for me. So, but yeah, I don't know. I don't love either. But that said, it's still a really good movie. A lot of fun.
Oh.
It is slow in parts. And yes, it could feel, I think one of the big drawbacks for me is the connection to the characters. I don't feel like that ever really lands where you relate to anyone.
Yeah, that's a good point.
There's a lot of characters in this, similar to Rogue One, where it's a lot to take in, and like, okay, Qui-Gon and Maul are dead, like, okay, like I should feel something, but I don't.
It is funny though, kind of like watching it again too. Like, I'm not trying to throw shade at actors or actresses, but people, it feels robotic. Like,
Yeah.
like, I think Padme had come a long way comparing her from Phantom to Revenge of the Sith. But like a lot of the lines, it just seemed like kind of like robotic discussion.
I'll probably say this again, but I always think of the prequels, especially in George Lucas's world, as being more, once you look at it more of a Shakespearean lens, where it's like very dramatic and over the top because it's an epic of like it's the downfall of a chosen one. And if you think of it in that light, it makes the dialogue and all of that a little bit more palpable.
Does it for you though? Because you just railed this movie.
Well, that's not how I feel about the rest of the prequels.
Okay.
I did want to also take a moment to properly bag on the immersive universe because I mentioned midichlorians, never brought up again or have any real importance in the Star Wars saga. They had a chance to bring it back with Rey, but then I guess it didn't really matter. And then we get a double-ended lightsaber, which literally broke the internet before the internet was like really a thing. And then we literally never get one again. There's no more until you get into like Rebels, and there's like
they're like
the animated
someone
ones.
wants one, and they're like, oh, remember that Darth Maul guy?
Yeah, like it actually
Remember him.
made sense for Rey to have like a saber staff, and it's so disappointing that like something that audiences purely loved so much and that had such a great reaction was never used again.
But that's
really
not
well.
Phantom Menace's fault.
Well, it's a problem I have with it.
Yeah.
I'm pinning it on Phantom Menace.
I'll also
You
say,
showed us something freaking great.
And then you
It's
took
your
it away
fault we
from
never
us.
got it again.
so we're gonna pin that on you.
Exactly.
No.
I will say to the midichlorian point though, that was another thing with the Force. Like it kind of like science-ified, if I can make that word up. It put a science to the Force, and I don't know how well received it was at that time, but to me, it was like a decent enough explanation where it's like, I guess, what more do you want from the midichlorian stuff? Because like for me, it was like explaining some mystical part of the Force, and it was like, we're going to make it a little more hard facts, rational thinking behind it, but
Yeah,
it
that never
still
bothered me.
works. And like to me, I was like, all right, that's fine enough, and I didn't need to know anything more about the midichlorians.
Yep. That was fine for me too. Never bothered me a whole lot. I mean, I get it. If you grew up watching things like The Empire Strikes Back and you see Yoda pull the X-Wing out and everything, it feels very mystical, very
Yeah.
spiritual.
Wizardry.
Yeah.
It
And-
doesn't totally need to be explained in that sense, or if they are going to explain the science of it, I want to know more then.
All right, you're a curious mind.
I am a curious mind. I like
and that's
asking
what
questions.
science is for.
Yeah.
Hey,
Go to the books.
to the books. Well, another thing I'll say for this movie that it does so well, I mean, it might be the best piece of, it might offer the best piece of Star Wars music ever in
Top-notch
Duel of the
music.
Fates.
Mm.
I mean, the way it was composed, and I mean, I don't know this story line for line, but John Williams found, it wasn't a hymn, but it was some sort of song that was all about, I think from the Christian perspective, like the angelic conflict between good and evil, angels and demons, and light overpowering dark, and really the fate of everything else, in this case humanity, as a result of this spiritual warfare. And so he took that and said, let's basically rewrite this to fit into this Star Wars language with, some Latin and everything else. And again, that's the whole theme. It's light, dark, back, forth, and everything else hangs in the balance. And so it's interesting because it's played here at the reintroduction of the Sith, and then played again at episode 3, where again the Sith have won. So the only other fitting time, I guess, would be in Return of the Jedi to play it again. So really powerful song. You look at where it's derived from, how it's used. And there's a lot of folks that say if it wasn't a Star Wars song, so many music theorists, and people who appreciate that form of classical art would deem it one of the greatest pieces we've seen since works like Beethoven.
Yeah.
But it's again affiliated with Star Wars, and it's not seen in that light. So it's hard for me not to give the music a 5 out of 5.
Yeah, even
for
just
that
for
reason
that.
alone.
But also, like, throughout the whole film, the music is definitely, if you like watch the original trilogy over and over, and then you go to this one, there's definitely a different feel to the music, and it, even like when Anakin is leaving his mother, like that is so, even now, like as a parent, like in that moment, I was like, wow, you guys really just brushed past that goodbye, like that's 9 years
Forget
or
about
10 years.
Shmi.
Yeah. And like, it was, but yeah, the music throughout I thought was really cool, and taking us from scene to scene, seeing all these different planets. So I had to rate the music high.
Yep.
And I still rated the immersive universe high. We were talking, about the immersive universe stuff. But
Well, before we move on to the next section, Christian, with our decent normal rankings that, again, we're pretty in line with what this movie should have been, but having been so weighed down by the outlier of the group, what did this movie end up scoring as a percentage?
puts us at 67.9%.
Wow.
Amanda, are you proud of yourself?
I think it's fair. I think most, I can't say maybe most Star Wars fans would agree, because that's not what this is about.
If I'm correct, your own boyfriend, or I'm sorry, fiance, loves this movie as well.
Yes, he
What
does.
does he think of your critique?
We're still getting married, or the plan is still to get married, so he's okay with it for
This
now.
episode has not
It's
been
being
released.
talked about, worked about through premarital
we're
counseling
doing
right now.
therapy and
Right?
everything.
Does he agree that is his childhood? That's why he
Yeah.
likes it. Does he agree with your critique that it's not a good movie, or is he just like,
He thinks that I'm too tough on it.
well, I agree. I also agree.
Pretty tough on it, but I think at the same time, it would be interesting for me personally if I wasn't introduced to this as a kid.
Mm-hmm.
like I'm pretty attuned to I really like seeking out like what are the politics of this movie or what is the message of this story, you know, just with anything because, you know, we're cynical now as adults about that. But yeah, I mean, this film was the only time you get to see Maul's legs, his real
Only
legs,
time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
before they were severed from his body.
Mm-hmm. It's true.
He got a whole 2.5 minutes of screen time.
Yeah.
Yep. And very little dialogue.
Any?
Which is crazy because his dialogue in Clone Wars is what really makes it, and Rebels for me.
Yeah.
He had a little dialogue when they're like him and Sidious are like walking on the balcony. Alas, we'll have our revenge.
Yeah. No, I prefer Sam Witwer.
I think they gave Maul the Boba Fett treatment.
Yeah. Yeah, it's true. Had a great character, killed him off way too early, and had to bring him back later through TV.
Mm-hmm.
So, well, with that said, in fairness of time, we should take ourselves into the hot takes segment of the show.
Don't be too proud of this podcast you've constructed. The ability to rank content is insignificant next to the power of an exceptional hot take.
It's hot takes time, and Christian, you've got an interesting hot take of your own, and it
Ooh.
kind of lines up with what Amanda was saying earlier.
My hot take is Qui-Gon should have had a double-edged lightsaber like Maul.
Why?
Make it match up. Light meets the dark.
That would have been cool. If
What's no? What's your argument? It's not an argument. You know, the guys, they come together and they. Wouldn't that
you
have been
imagine?
freaking awesome?
What would have been really cool if we're really expanding on this. Maul does it. Obi-Wan's freaking out, like, what the heck? And then Obi-Wan has no idea.
I know, and
but
it's like-
Qui-Gon is like, watch this, my young
I've been
apprentice, my
hiding
very
this
young
the whole
apprentice.
time.
to which Darth Maul's like, oh yeah, and a third one comes out.
All right, now you're ruining my take, man.
Qui-Gon, not so fast, pulls out another one out of his pocket. Like, oh,
He's got a Swiss Army knife of a lightsaber.
General Grievous just
Yeah.
panting over here like, oh, the
Nunchuck.
lightsabers. He's just, my collection.
So there you have it, folks. What do you think?
Is it a hot take?
Probably not.
I don't
Wait,
think
you gotta defend yourself. You got
sounds like
no, it's
ah.
dumb, guys. Never
Like-
mind.
I would have liked to see it. I think for anyone, Liam Neeson could have pulled it off. For anyone.
All right. Is it a hot take, Christian? Just be honest with yourself
It's
here.
my hot take.
It could have been Liam Neeson, or it could have been Samuel L. Jackson.
Ooh.
Yeah. I mean, he already had the purple factor going. So it
Yeah.
was like 2 purple blades. That might have been much. You know, people are having seizures and exploding. Seeing, like, what the heck?
I think it's milk toast.
All right.
I think that's milk toast as well.
All right.
You fool! Your take is milk toast.
Yeah, that's milk toast indeed. Amanda, you also have a hot take.
I'm sure there's an answer to this in the universe, because I know that there's plenty of books written about Queen Amidala, but I'm concerned about the child labor laws in Naboo. Why is Queen Amidala 12 and running a country? Not even Queen Elizabeth was that young when she started her reign. Maybe Naboo has been taken out of the Trade Federation because they don't believe a child is mature enough to handle the situation. And there's probably a good argument to be made there. So I guess my hot take is someone should send Child Protective Services to Naboo.
Ooh.
Is it confirmed she's 12?
That's just my headcanon. I guess I don't know how old she actually is.
I think she's at least 14 or 15.
Wow,
I mean,
a woman.
Yeah, but I'm holding fast to that like 5-year gap between Padme and Anakin.
Okay.
And if Anakin was what, a 10-year-old boy,
Mhm.
9-year-old boy in this film,
14,
Sure.
15.
that's
yeah.
where it puts her.
Okay.
So an 8th grader.
Something like that. Yeah, she shouldn't be in power.
No. She should probably have like a queen regent or something. Like, yeah.
She
So-
just got done listening to Justin Bieber's latest mixtape.
There is a new book though, a new Padme book. Forgive
Ooh.
me, I forget the title.
So
I haven't read
you
it.
haven't read any, like, do you know how
don't.
Queen Amidala got in power? Okay.
I'm sure if we did our research, some Wikipedia and stuff,
Yeah.
we could do some more things with this. But
But honestly,
Child
maybe
labor laws.
maybe we're just saying this so we can get yelled at by some fans that are like, "You're not real Star Wars fans if you don't know this."
But
So-
that's the thing about this podcast. It's like we're not even really like, because that is something, there are fans that come up and like, you haven't read all of these books, check this out. It's like we're coming at this with a critical lens.
Yeah.
We're not coming at this as like saying we're the biggest Star Wars fans. We're starting from A New Hope
Yeah.
and going from there. We're taking the 5 critical points and going from there. So, you know what? To your credit, you shouldn't know any of the extra stuff
Yeah.
coming into this. You should just be able to look at this piece of content on its own. And based on that, I'm going to agree with you. I don't think there should be a 15-year-old in power. Based on what we know, get rid of all the books, get rid of everything else, and just look at from A New Hope to this point right here, right now, what do we know? And we know that people are in power at way too young of an age.
Yeah.
I mean, for all
Too
we
high
know.
of expectations.
Yeah, she's over here making it like everyone starts their day with milk and cookies. Like that's the first law she enacts. Like,
yeah.
who else? Well, what else would come up? Yeah, I don't know. What else are 14-year-olds into? Maybe I described a 6-year-old. I don't know. But
if she was like this age bracket, yeah, she shouldn't be Queen of Naboo, let alone, I don't know.
Having like assassination attempts and organizing her group to be like in
Yeah.
disguise for her,
Yeah. But I will say, like, when I was watching the movie for like the first few times, I always pictured her as like older than that. She's older. She's earned this. She's been voted into this queenship.
which is still weird, even if she's like 16.
Yeah.
Because we
I'm
again,
not,
watched
yeah,
it, we're
but
like
when watching it, I'm not thinking she's 16. I'm thinking she's like
'Cause how
closer
she
to
carries
20,
herself.
like
I
young
know,
20s.
yeah, when you're a
That's-
kid you think that like
That's what you think.
yeah,
Yeah,
you have a really
as a
distorted
kid.
understanding.
yeah, you're
of-
like she's 14. She's got it all figured out. Why wouldn't she?
Yeah.
The 8th
No,
graders.
she's like 25.
They know everything.
I want to be queen when I'm in the 8th grade.
That goes back to my point of like, that's how I was viewing her, like a legitimate conversation, like with the boy and like that 20-year-old female. I'm like, I'm not seeing that as flirting, she's just
Yeah.
letting him talk. Spout some nonsense. Get it out of your system. But yeah,
The whole fact that they had to recast Anakin in the next movie to make their age gap
yeah.
look less
I
Yeah.
thought it was
is
'cause
like
Jake
ugh,
Lloyd
red
was
flag.
like done.
Though Star Wars got me real good back in the day. There was this Jedi Quest book. On the back, it has the actor, Jake Lloyd, and it has Hayden Christensen on the other end. And they have an evolution spectrum. Like someone drew
like an anim what
drew
is
the
it called?
morph,
The
like
old,
the evolutionary ape thing.
Yes.
Like that whole, it was Jake Lloyd and Hayden Christensen. And I had that book. And for the longest time, I thought they were the same person. Same actor. I was like, dang, everything just works out perfectly for George Lucas's Star Wars. He's brilliant. They got me good when I was a kid.
They did. They got you really good. Not me, because I knew just
They
by
had
looking at
different
him.
names.
Yeah, just by looking at him, I knew it was a different person.
Yeah.
But we all, I wasn't privy to all the books you had as a kid, because we both know you were literate. You have all the
I
books.
really wasn't, though. Just I liked the pictures.
You like the covers.
So did I get a Roger?
You get a Roger.
Yeah.
Well, I think that takes us into the last segment of the show. Force Ghost Charlie, what time is it?
This is the way.
to trivia time! It's trivia time, and Christian has the question of the week. Christian, what do we got?
Trivia time. Yeah, it's a not so subtle question, but the question is, well, it's not multiple choice either, so sorry. Who is the Phantom Menace?
I am gonna guess that
It could be Maul.
well, I think it's the Emperor. Well, at this time, just
Sheev.
Sheev Palpatine.
Just a little old
Oh, Palpy.
senator from Naboo.
The Senator?
Mm-hmm. We'll watch your career with great interest.
Yeah, I'm going to say Sheev Palpatine as well.
You would be correct.
Wow.
I think there are theories out there, like you could argue, oh no, this person is the
Yeah.
Phantom Menace, or this one, but
it was Anakin.
It was Anakin.
I think
Qui-Gon.
I think it's been decided.
Yeah.
It was Palpatine.
Yes, Palpatine.
So good job.
Yeah, thank you. Well, this was fun. Now we know that it's not going to break 70%, even though both Christian and I thought this was a pretty decent
one
movie.
of them has to be the lowest.
I don't think this will be the lowest. There are other movies, like some of the sequels that have come out that aren't that great.
I know we're not talking about sequel hate already.
You just invoked a whole rage of other
Yeah.
people's.
Well, the
I
good
think
news is
there's
all
some
of them
the
are children
best
still.
Star Wars movies are in the sequels too.
And the worst. It's really weird how that kind of happened.
There's kind of a best and worst of each trilogy.
That
It's
trilogy.
nice we get that, right?
It's a
Or
whole
we can
roller
just
coaster.
completely
Gives
ignore
us
it.
something to talk about.
Pay attention to the George Lucas canon. But that's okay. Well, we hope you enjoyed this week's rank of The Phantom Menace. Be sure to tune in next week as we go over the Attack of the Clones. Amanda, for folks that want to follow us, where can they check us out?
Check us out at dueloftheranks.com, where you can check out our blog for all of our previous rankings, plus like a total cheat sheet of where everything lies in the total breakdown of our rankings, and we have a store for all of your cool Duel of the Ranks merch.
We absolutely do. So be sure to check that out. Again, Phantom Menace, 67.9% overall. Be sure to tune back in for the Attack of the Clones, and we will see you next week.